Ladies and gentlemen, Ferry.
Kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Mr. Chewy.
What up, Matthew? How we doing for the final week?
Yeah, I'm hyped.
Of the year.
Like I'm hyped for this week. Chloe Swarbrick confirmed for tomorrow night. Kieran McAnulty confirmed for tonight. Got a couple of feelers out for a few more people for Wednesday night. And Thursday night, we're going to have a big whānau party with Emily and Magenta here. And then Friday, brand new podcast we're launching, The Leftist Collective. Who have we got coming along? Spider Hoof's coming on Friday. I think Paul Barlow's going to drop his head in on Friday. Calvin Morgan's coming on Friday. I'm going to be there. I think. Are you going to be there, Chewy? Are you going to be there?
I told you. You point me at something.
I know.
I'm like, you just wind me up and let me go.
For people who aren't quite sure what it is, we've decided kind of as a collective that in America they do a podcast called The Leftist Mafia, which is a great title, better than our title, but we couldn't really steal it too much. And it's just separate content creators who sit on the left of politics coming together. And next year, hopefully, we'll do it once a month. And we'll just get people from all sorts of places coming together. Like, Jordan Rivers is going to do it with us. He's the king of TikTok, so he'll make clips from the collective and use it on TikTok. I mean, I imagine Calvin, who's kind of the king of Twitter, he'll make, and we're on YouTube and we'll do YouTube. So everyone will use the stuff themselves for their own kind of content. I don't know why my hands are doing all this, but I feel like I should stop now. Whew, here we go. So yeah, that's going to be Friday night. That'll be live as well. And then Chewy, I got to tell you, brother, speaking about, and then let me go and actually open it up. Check this out. I have started today getting the best ofs together for when we're away. And oh my goodness, how the hell do I choose? I'll give you, so day one, which will be Monday next week, is going to be January. Day 2 is going to be February. Day 3 is going to be March. That's how we're going to do it. January's lineup so far, Chloe Swarbrick and Brooke Van Velden on ACT's Treaty Principles Bill, Marilyn Garson from Alternative Jewish Voices, Professor Margaret Mutu, and Professor Boyd Swindon on Casey Costello. Like, honestly, they're going to be the best shows of the year. It's like, we're going to go away and there's going to be these absolutely amazing fill-in shows. I'll give you February and then I'll stop. February at the moment looks like this. Harry Tam on Nationals planning to ban gang patches. Mihinarangi Forbes taking David Seymour to pieces. And we had to get a little Karen Plunkett in there when he's all worried about people using their second name to be public figures. Honestly, I was just like, they could have been 4-hour shows every single night so easily. It's going to be huge. Right, I'm still talking, so I'll keep going. Huge thanks to our patrons. Thanks so much for being involved, for being on board. If you are a current patron, you would have got the early access to our BHN shop being back open, as we're saying now, as seen on TV1 News. Nikki Noboats is there and it's available. And can I say a huge welcome to Loki's mum, to George, to Hamish Harding, to Wiki Toria Love, to Raywin Doe, and to Carrie Sullivan, who all became patrons in the last 7 days. As we've said before, Christmas time coming, we're all going to have a break, we're all going to have downtime. For us, the patrons are doubly special through that period because we're not here to get your very generous super chats, and we don't get the ad revenue because the viewership goes down. So you patrons are the ones who carry us through and help us get through that period and continue to pay the bills even when we're not here. So the shop is open. I'm going to do you a deal this week, whānau. And at the moment, it looks a bit bare because like we're putting them on rust. At the moment, this is rust top, but they look pretty good. But what I've decided is tomorrow, I will bring back one extra color for each of these. Chewy's going to have his orange back. The buffer will be the green one because that was the most popular buffer. I'm not sure about us in the middle there. So there'll be another color tomorrow night. But if you buy a piece of merch, a t-shirt, if you buy a t-shirt during the live show, Monday to Thursday, I'm going to throw a sticker or two in with the pack as well, just as a freebie on the side for Christmas. But it's only for purchases that are made during the live show. So basically between 9 p.m. and 10:30 p.m., Monday to Thursday, you'll get an extra special Christmas present as a way that we can say thanks to you if you purchase during the live show. And we'll give you a shout out on the show as well.
That's like now, just in case you're wondering. Like, if you're watching this live, it's now. If you're listening to it's not now. You missed it. Sorry. But if you're listening live, right now.
There is a few rumors going around that Nikki No Boats is making its way into some Wellington offices, and lots of people from Lower Hutt, I noticed. A lot of Lower Hutt addresses have been written down on the ones that I've been sending out there. What else is happening? The other news is we have a new PO box. To be honest, I was a bit nervous about sending out all this merch and not having sort of a return address. So we've just got ourselves a new PO box. We won't tell you about it now, but it means from next year onwards, we'll have another way that you guys can connect with us. Chewy. There's the notices. And remember, the exits are there, and there. And I think I'm finished. Is there anything?
I'm going to very briefly start with one thing, because everybody loves, like, just an action-packed show deserves to be started with a graph.
Yep.
I found this graph. And I want to show everybody the graph that I found. There's New Zealand people on a working age benefit. Right. This is a fun one. So this bit here, that's the global financial crisis.
2008.
Okay. Yeah. So up it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That's COVID. Yep. Very bad. Lots of people on a benefit then.
Yeah.
And this.
Yeah.
This bit where it gets really, really high, that's the last 18 months of national.
This is Christopher Luxon.
2 global crises. Not as bad as the government we've had for 12 months.
Dude.
Just something to think on.
It's time then.
Just chew on. Just ruminate.
I think
what an absolute war crime this government is.
Okay, so leave it up there. Leave that there. That's that graph there. And let's welcome to the show Kieran McAnulty. Sir, good evening to you.
Hey, lads. How are you?
Fan favourite. Well, you were fan favourite last year as well. I think this is 2 years in a row, both you and Chloe. It's not bad.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Cool. Chewy does this thing where he takes us off tangents and ruins the whole show like he's just done. But seeing the graph is up there, Kieran, would you like to comment on it?
I do love me a graph, so good on you, Chewy. I'm with you, mate. I'm sure the audience at every public meeting that I've pulled out a graph appreciate them as well. But they do emphasize the point. Like, you can state it as, oh, yeah. And then you pull that bad boy out and it's like, oh, yeah, right. Okay. And that's pretty telling, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, these are choices of this government. They are choosing to lay people off. They are choosing to pull investment in infrastructure and other things and stopping Kaingaora, building homes and all that sort of stuff. And then they point to us and say, oh, it's our fault that 12,000 construction workers are out of job. Give me a break.
That's 50,000 more people.
Yeah. And that's 50,000 homes that are impacted severely. Mm-hmm. You know, these are real people and they just don't seem to care.
And when you think about that, homes, 50,000 people, 50,000 homes, who knows, 150,000 people? Because how many people are in those homes? So
yeah, well, I mean, unemployment isn't an isolated thing. It impacts the family and the kids and everyone else that's dependent on that income, doesn't it? So,
what a cheery way to look back on the year we've
I was just thinking that. It's just a real positive way to start. But
hey, but listen,
you're welcome. You're welcome, Jen. I do what I do.
I see, Chewy, you're wearing the t-shirt. You want to give us a good close up for everybody else? What do you think of the t-shirt there, Kieran? Have you got any thoughts around that?
I love them, and I hope that there are many stockings in a few days' time when people go to the bottom and they find one of those absolute gems at the bottom of it. It'd be awesome.
And tell me this, from the inside looking out, did this lovely, lovely man, as we see here as seen on One News, and Magenta, who's just off to the left there, Did that get noticed by people in the chamber down below?
Yes, it did, for two reasons. I saw him walking in and pointed at him and said, "Ha, he's got one of those shirts on." and then the other reason it stood out is that great New Zealander, for the entire 7 or 8 years I've been in Parliament, has pretty much come to every single question time in a cannabis suit.
Yep.
And the first time I've ever seen him, either in Parliament or outside of Parliament, the first time I've seen him wearing something different, and it's a Nicky No Boats t-shirt. I mean, you couldn't write that script. Brilliant.
Yeah. We laughed pretty heartily when we asked Chris Hipkins last week, has this made it its way? Have you heard this in your office at all? And he just leaned back and went, yep, we've heard it in the office. And that was like, that's our Christmas present, Chewy. They know that the people outside of our little circle. It's funny, I did a little search on Twitter the other day for the hashtag, and it's well beyond us. Like it's well beyond us.
Oh, it's definitely a thing. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you where, and I'm not going to tell you the organisation because I don't want to out them. But I was at a meeting the other day where someone was describing a fraught construction process that they were involved in, and this was, someone that isn't involved in politics, and he said, but unlike Nicola and the ferries, we had a plan B, and then started to tell the story, and it went down so well. Everyone laughed, everyone clapped, and I just thought, this is the ferries issue has gone beyond those that follow politics regularly. Everyday New Zealanders are seeing this and thinking that was a real dumb thing, and these guys have cocked it up.
Yep. And look, we're going to get onto that story a bit later on tonight. What we'll probably do is maybe one of the last questions, Kieran, is ask you to speak into the news out today before we say goodbye, and then move into that story. But let's have a look at 2024. I mean, the unfortunate thing is sort of a political commentator. That's what we are, Chewy, in case you never knew. That's what we do for a job. It's often kind of negative. It's often kind of, this is wrong, this is wrong. Are we reflecting what politics has been in 2024, or are we missing some real good news stories?
I'm so sorry. I thought that was for Chewy. My mistake.
No, sorry.
No. Yeah.
No, I'm saying, are we reflecting what's happening in those big buildings accurately we've been a bit negative this year?
No, I mean, there's plenty to be negative about. It's pretty hard to be cheerful and put a positive spin on a pretty disingenuous and cynical government. And I think you're reflecting a real mood out there. I think it was starting to be picked up pretty early on. And I may have even said this on your show, I think, one of the times that I was on. Normally, when a party gets voted out of government, it takes about at least 18 months for people to start asking questions about what we would do differently. That started like 3 or 4 months in. It was extraordinary. So it was part of the reason why we started our policy process earlier than what we normally do, because we picked up that there's a real appetite for this. And, we've got a democratic process through the party to go through, but we've got to get going here. So no, I don't think so. I mean, you're giving an honest reflection of what's happening and to your viewpoint. And I think that's part of the reason why you're getting such a steady growth in views, because you're tapping into a sentiment that a lot of people share.
I was just talking to my partner tonight, and we were talking about Donald Trump, and we all know people who is kind of a fan of Donald Trump. And I'm like, yeah, but I was watching some clips over the weekend where pre-election Donald Trump was going, the stock market's going to go through the roof. I'm going to bring the cost of living down on day one. And then in the latest interviews for Time Magazine, he's like, oh, you probably shouldn't buy stocks because we can't really know what's going to happen in the future of the stock market. And like, no one can really change the price of groceries. So he's saying the opposite. And what I realized with Trump, and I think it's going to be interesting when the world has the next series of elections, is the world pretty much has voted for change. But what they don't realize, and Trump's a really clear example, is it's not better change. It's just change. And in that example in the States, it's far, far worse. It's like, I was saying to my partner, I was like, you break your leg on one day and then the next day you break your back. It's a change, but it's far worse than what it was the day before. And I wonder about our current government, and I wonder what's going to happen at the next election I mean, we all know that one-term governments aren't really a very common thing in New Zealand, although Chippy kind of squared us up away from that. If we were following a first past the post principle, it was more likely. But it makes me think what we're seeing in this government and what we're seeing in the polls, and Luxon still not being all that popular and stuff, they're running the country now like they're in their third term. And after the third term is normally when you get voted out. So the changes come to New Zealand, the changes come to America, the changes come around the world. But for some places, it's not a good change. I'm not sure if there's a question in that, Kieran. It's more of an observation.
Well, changes pretty much come everywhere. Essentially, almost every government that was involved in the COVID response has subsequently been voted out.
Yeah.
Those that have had elections anyway. And I don't say that to make excuses. It's just an observation. We accept that there was a mood for change last time. Understanding what was driving that is pretty important. But then also tapping into the growing disillusionment in this government and offering something that's tangible and credible and will actually address the things that people are worried about. So, it's becoming pretty clear that the National Party would say anything to get elected. They looked New Zealanders in the eye and told them that their tax plan added up, and then immediately upon election admitted that it didn't, essentially. They're spending, Chris Luxon spent more time last week arguing and was trying to manage arguments between Seymour and Peters. I've come to the conclusion that the reason that Luxon keeps talking about the time he ran an airline is because he can't talk about the time he ran a coalition because it's running away from him. It's honestly chaotic. The whole thing.
Did he run an airline? I hadn't heard that before. Did he run an airline? Huh.
Well, I'm starting to doubt it because he hasn't mentioned it in 15 minutes. So who knows? But honestly, this government is like an episode of The Thick of It, and every day there's just something else that comes out. And I have a lot of faith in New Zealanders, and they can sniff out insincerity from a mile off. They can also sniff out a bullshitter. And so when ministers are looking them in the eyes and saying things are better now, they know that's not the case. And I think they'd rather people come out and say, look, we gave this a go. It didn't quite work out, so we've got another plan.
Yeah.
Instead of spending their whole time blaming the previous government for things that are quite clearly as a result of their decisions.
I think what you just mentioned there, the word comes to mind, gaslighting. And it's funny, I wrote gaslighting down to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the latest thing is all of a sudden, Chewie, we're not getting those EV charges we were promised. Yet they're saying, we'll still hit our targets. The police numbers, the police numbers haven't hit what they should do. And they're still saying, oh no, we'll still reach our police targets. We're still going to reduce smoking as they're incentivizing more smoking. It's like the gaslighting that's going on is unreal, and the broken promises. And you throw in there things like the student loans for nurses promises. And I did a tweet or a post on Blue Sky, whatever that's called, a blart, I don't know, that said it is now technically officially easier to write a list on what they have kept rather than what they've broken, because the broken list is so much longer. It's just unreal. It's unreal. It's exactly like Trump. I'm going to be in charge of the stock market. Oh, don't trust the stock market. I'm going to be in charge of cost of living. Oh, don't trust the cost of living. It's exactly the same. Chewie, you should say something, by the way.
I should say something. I'm just wondering what sort of runway that they have when they're pissing off the nurses union, the junior doctors, the teachers, the maritime union. That's a lot of people. That's people with kids, people without kids, people with EVs. There just doesn't seem to be a lot for the rank and file New Zealander that thought that things were going to be better.
I think it adds up, and it's easy to forget that they've actually only been in 12 months. It's a lot of broken promises in a short period of time.
Yeah,
it does feel like a speed run.
Yeah, but it also they are trying to hoodwink people in areas where it's so obvious and that people really care about. So to say that the cuts to health don't affect the front line, then people go to the ED and they can't get seen. They can see the nurses and doctors working their ass off, but they just simply don't have enough resources. My local hospital in Masterton is 40 nurses short, and they swear black and blue there's no hire freeze, but they're not allowed to hire more. So, I look at the two areas that I'm responsible for, local government. They promised New Zealanders that their water plan would be cheaper, and it's just not. People are getting double-digit rate rises because councils can't afford to do the water stuff. And here's the thing, that the only way that their water plan adds up is if they significantly reduce the amount that they say has to be spent. So instead of working on a 30-year projection like we did, they deliberately worked on a 10-year projection and then says, oh, no, this adds up. It doesn't. It's going to get worse. They promised they would build more social houses than the Labor government and immediately reneged on that. They said they would build 1,000 more homes in Auckland, but in 2026, the number of homes in Auckland are going to go backwards 200. This stuff adds up real quick, and people are starting to see it in things that they care about, and it's not what they voted for.
Yeah,
we're seeing that here in Dunedin, the site that I asked you about earlier in the year, down the road from me here, still empty. A clear site for KO houses, still empty. Some sites around Dunedin have been cancelled, and there's more to come. People will start to notice this. There's a critical mass, and I think because they have tried to front load all of this, it really, really sticks out. Have you seen, speaking of the councils and the water plan and all of that sort of thing, have you seen Simeon Brown's comments today?
It's a latest edition of latest chapter of this government trying to deflect all responsibility onto councils so that when there is the inevitable backlash, they can say, not us. Whereas, in fact, it actually is the government. They're the ones that stuffed up water reform. We're talking the thousands of dollars a year of every ratepayer in the country because the government stuffed it up. And what's patently clear is that the rating system is stuffed and needs to be fixed. We did a review on it. The recommendations were there, and Simeon Brown dismissed it as woke nonsense. And now the only option councils have is rates. So it's only going to go in one direction. And honestly, every time someone opens up their rates bill and gets a surprise, don't blame your councils. Obviously, there's things that they do that we don't agree on. That's why we have elections. But the reason it's going up so quickly and will continue to go up is because this government has stuffed it up.
And we always got to remember that this current government, they're the ones who tore you guys apart for mandating things from central government for councils. That's the way they sold it. And today I watched some of that press conference and I was listening to Wee Simeon, and it was just like, how can you mandate what they're going to do in their local bodies from central government? This is the gaslighting. It's exactly the gaslighting in. This is what you ran against, and now you're doing it. And how can you do now what you said the last lot couldn't do? We have you've probably heard this, Kieran, but we have this rule. Our most basic rule is we will hold this government accountable to the standard they held you guys, or the standard they set for themselves, like when they make a promise for 10,000 EV charges. Yeah. That's their standard. That's not ours. That's not necessarily yours. That's what they said. And one of the things they said was the evils of centralising everything and all these edicts coming from Wellington. And it's exactly what they're doing now. And we have to tell people and remind people. And it doesn't even matter to me whether that's the right or wrong decision. What matters to me is that's what they said was wrong and bad, and now they're doing it. That's their standard, Kieran.
That's 100% correct. I mean, if they held themselves to the same standard they held us, they'd be calling for an early election already. You know, the fact is that they said anything and everything they could to appeal to the broadest range of people, even when it contradicted itself. And I'm quickly coming to the conclusion that they never had any intention to keep some of these promises. They just hope that they'll get rid of it and then people will get over it. Well, I'm not sure they will. They went around the country promising everyone a new road, and then we look at the budget and there's a $6 billion hole in it. Could you imagine what they would have said if we produced a transport budget with a $6 billion hole?
Yep.
And it even comes down to the local level. Look, we have spoken on this show recently about the proposed toll on the new Manawatu Tararua Highway. Now, there were massive public meetings, a huge backlash on that. The two local national MPs, Suze Redmayne and Mike Butterick, refused to oppose the toll. They were asked repeatedly by the locals, will you stand with us and oppose this toll? And they said no. And the day that proposal was scrapped, they both put a video out on social media celebrating the decision. And I thought, you disingenuous so-and-sos, but people notice this stuff.
Yeah.
And it all adds up. Another 2 years of this, and it might be a very interesting election.
Yeah, we found that here in Dunedin, Choey, all these mayoralty candidates who are like against the redevelopment of George Street. Who do you think was fucking cutting the ribbon when that actually went through in this amazing location that they were against? Went down there and popped the champagne, didn't he? And cut the ribbon, was like, I'm so proud of you, Dunedin. No. You were against this, you dog. Sorry, Chewy, you're in.
I think it's certainly like in your own electorate, that's got to be noticed. Those people that went to those meetings and saw who was there to front for the things that concerned them and who wasn't there. That stuff gets remembered. And I think of the electorates that flipped last election. And I know, how hard a lot of the Labour electorate guys are hustling now because there is so much to hustle for. There are so many things that are important to people, and especially in the regions, that are important to those people. That National, we don't have to listen to you anymore. You voted for us. That's all we needed from you.
Yeah.
Thanks. And this is where it gets won. The next election gets won and lost. You often hear people say,
politics. Sorry, Drew.
No, you often hear of people going, hey, look, I don't like their party, but this MP is a good electorate MP, so I'm going to vote for him. That's quite a common thing. But I don't see that even in, comments outside of my bubble. I don't see people talking about national MPs in that same way.
Mm.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that is one of the benefits of MMP, is that some people choose to split their votes. I mean, for a long time on the West Coast, the National Party won the party vote right throughout the key years, but they always voted Damien because they knew he was a good local MP. He got tipped out for 3 years and then came straight back and then held it until the last election, And so some electorates do think like that, but it's the greatest irony of New Zealand politics is that rural provincial areas traditionally vote national. Nationals never looked after them, ever. And small rural communities have never been served by a hands-off free market approach. They slowly wither away. It's those governments that are willing to invest in them, usually Labor governments, that help them out. And so, there's going to be many examples like that people will be able to talk about. But the most heartbreaking thing at the moment for us that are based in our various communities is we can see people we know and have grown up with that are hurting as a direct result of this government's policies. Emergency housing is the perfect example. So they promised that they would reduce the numbers in emergency housing, not by housing people. The people that are housed are going into the houses that were paid for and built by the last government. It's come out as a result of Scrutiny Week and other OIAs, etc., that a massive chunk of the people that are the massive reason why the numbers are dropping is because they're just not letting people in.
Mm.
And it is this manufacturing the numbers to prove a point, not because they've solved homelessness, they're making it worse, but because they're saving $20 million a year. And you think they're putting that into community housing? Nah, it's going straight into the centre. Yeah. And so that example shows you where their motivations are.
Hey, I'd like to, there's another story that popped up late today that I haven't put in the show notes, but I thought maybe we'll do it with you. I know probably Isha Verrill's the official spokesperson for health and should be doing it there, but there was an announcement. Well, it was actually an exclusive to TVNZ. This government's leaking like a sieve at the moment. There was an exclusive on TVNZ. There was an exclusive on 3 News, which we'll get to later. But there was one about health. I think maybe you guys have already reported. I think this is the official exclusive on 1 News.
It's the Sunnies.
I think this is actually this footage. I joke. I joke and I jest. There is a story we're going to look at, but me and Chewy have been a little bit critical of the Labor digital footprint, Kieran, and I would like to tip my hat to your TikTok account people at the moment. They're doing a real good job. Really, really good job. Really good job.
Well, that's good. They'll probably will see this themselves, but I'll make sure I pass it on tomorrow nonetheless.
Let's have a look at this though. Remember, we get rid of the backroom people. It's not going to impact the frontliners. Remember that.
Axing hundreds of IT roles at Health New Zealand could lead to, quote, catastrophic failures. That's according to risk assessment analysis by Te Whatu Ora's
apparently IT could possibly impact the front line, maybe.
Own team that's been leaked to One News. The union representing health staff is warning patients could die if the cuts go ahead. Senior political reporter Benedict Collins has more.
That'll be one. Oh, that's too. I was going to say something too cold. I was going to say that'll be one less off the public health ticket then, so it would save some money. But no, that's even too harsh for me, maybe.
Annex is hovering over 653 data and digital staff who help run our health system, as Health NZ looks to slash costs. IT upgrades also on the chopping block.
It is likely that patients will...
Can I just ask, hang on, I just thought of something. IT upgrades are on pause, but Luxon was able to upgrade the equipment in his office, even though the equipment that was there worked all through COVID for Jacinda. But in the health system, IT upgrades are on the got to hold on those. That's interesting. Just kind of putting that out there. Just putting it out there.
Injury or death. It is as serious as that.
One News has obtained a document revealing Health NZ's own experts believe many proposed changes come with extreme risk.
Doctors and nurses need the best IT system that they can get to provide the patient care.
The detailed analysis points out a series of concerns, including a 30-year-old IT system at Auckland Hospital, which Health NZ says is at imminent risk of catastrophic failure.
Yeah,
the risk of clinical information, such as referrals getting lost, which could see patients falling through the cracks and missing out on care. And that emergency responses will be compromised during major disasters with a reduced ability to coordinate.
It looks like there could be
None of that feels that bad though, right? I mean, that's okay, I think. We'll just let him. This is actually a really interesting point because I think this is Margie Upper. I think that's the CE. Knows nothing about it and tries to undersell the leak.
Coordinate.
It looks like there could be dire consequences, though, if you proceed with some of these plans that you're looking at.
It's very early input, I understand. I hadn't even seen it.
The frank assessment news to Health NZ's boss.
We want to go into this with eyes wide open, and I really do appreciate that our staff are putting their thinking caps.
I appreciate the staff has leaked this to TVNZ. That's what she's actually saying. It's beautiful.
Into this with eyes wide open, and I really do appreciate that our staff are putting their thinking caps on and assessing the potential impact of these proposals.
Yeah, do you think this is kind of a whistleblower act here, this document coming to One News?
No, not at all.
The advice also warns mass digital job losses will lead to more outages and incidents and decreasing quality of care and safety for patients.
That doesn't sound good.
We have some standards and expectations of maintaining service continuity, so that's not negotiable.
The former health minister says the message is clear.
The government is being warned here that these cuts could seriously put patient safety at risk. They need to stop them.
The health minister wouldn't be interviewed, saying it was an operational matter, but added he's been reassured the health reset is being undertaken in a careful and considered manner. Benedict Collins.
We can't, I mean, you guys probably can't as well, Kieran. The idea of the CEO talk, this is a reset. This is a health reset. We're just going to reset it and continue using 30-year-old technology at our biggest hospital. But look, as I said, that's not in the show notes, but you're here. Thoughts?
What really gives me the shits is when ministers instruct departments to cut X billion out of their budgets, and when the consequences of that direction comes forward, they say that's an operational matter. Front up, Shane Retty has told the health department to find $1.4 billion worth of cuts. And this is what happens when you do this. The hospitals without enough workers and doctors and nurses is what happens when you do this. Health New Zealand actually are doing what the government has told them to do.
Yeah.
And so he shouldn't be so gutless as to put the CEO in front of them, who has no choice but to defend it. He should be the one that's fronting it. We're seeing it across the board. We're seeing it in police. We're seeing it in transport. We're seeing it in housing, across the board. Ministers are claiming, and social development is a prime example. I know that's an operational decision. Rubbish. It's your decision. So front up, because this is what happens as a result of what you've decided to do.
And the other thing, and Margie Upper said it then, basically we have an expectation of outcomes that we're going to reach. It's the same sort of thing, right? Like I remember working for a radio station where the boss there gave us announcers this conversation talking about David Letterman and the prep that David Letterman does for his show and how he gets ready, to try and encourage us. I waited for the appropriate time and everyone had left, and I just said to him, when you give me 23 writers like David Letterman's got, then I'll produce for you the same content that David Letterman does. And it's the same sort of thing. We're cutting, but you have to have exactly the same, if not better outcomes. It's some kind of parallel universe that doesn't exist. Chewy?
Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts. This is this is a very Dunedin analogy. I apologize.
Spates? Has it got spates in it?
So you were silly and you didn't order firewood back at the start of the year, and now it's winter. You got nothing to burn, so you have a look under your house. You got all these wooden beams holding your house up. You surely don't need that one. Maybe you don't need this one. Maybe you just keep on taking it out so you got wood to burn, and eventually your house falls over. Like, this is what it feels like. Let's just kick out this beam and see how long it can carry on for. And we've said this right from day dot, right from when these health cuts especially were first rolled out. This feels like setting the scene for full privatization.
The thing is, too, with that analogy,
foundations.
Yeah, you hadn't had a chance to rebuild the floorboards before you started burning them again. That's the thing. We've been here before. This is exactly the playbook that happened under Key. It was just happening under someone that was a bit more charismatic and articulate. And so it's exactly the same thing. They cut the funding. They claim that the services are fine. They keep telling the public that. It's reached its severe consequences a bit earlier this time around because they're doing it in a real fragile time for us. We're coming out of the pandemic. The economy hasn't recovered like they promised. In fact, the decisions that this government has made is prolonging the recession. 15 economists that signed that letter have demonstrated that. We can't afford to, or we're not in a position to withstand this onslaught because we didn't get a chance to rebuild properly. And so it's every warning that was on that TVNZ story tonight should be heeded, because these people know what they're talking about, not just because they're experiencing now, but they've seen it before.
I'd also like to say, with the use of a particular word when it described that IT system, catastrophic. Yeah, in a report like this, that isn't a word that's thrown around lightly. No. There's literally like levels that you describe. Catastrophic is right at the top. This is the worst possible outcome, as that system goes down.
I mean, there really aren't many words worse than that to describe something. And the thing with health professionals is they're very deliberate with their wording. Because if you use hyperbole when you're giving out a diagnosis, it can cause unnecessary distress to people. So they are very deliberate in how they say things. When health professionals say this is going to be catastrophic, you better bloody believe them, because it will be.
Yeah. Hey, is there anything in the chat? Chewy, do you want to have a look in the chat just see if there's any particular questions that we want to pass through to Kieran? But whilst Chewy's doing that, Kieran, I have a couple of questions for you. The first is, and we won't go into great detail because we're going to actually play the video, but we hear that one of our two ferries is basically going to be unusable in 12 months' time because there's going to be no wharf to park at it. Do you have a thought around that?
Well, they've lied, haven't they? And you can add that to the list of all the other lies that they've told. They knew that their plan wouldn't add up, and they knew that when they cancelled the ferries that it was a massive mistake. And for 12 months, they were telling the country that all is in hand. And even last week when they announced it, they told us that all was in hand, all the while knowing that actually one of those boats won't last it till the end of the time frame that they announced just days ago. You actually couldn't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
You could have a satirical TV show and it not be half as bad as what we're witnessing in our own country.
The one thing that was good from it is the announcement last week. The announcement of the announcement is it did keep our Nikki No Boats merch still current for at least another 3 months. So, from a personal point of view, we want to say thanks for that. I was just looking for, I saw a really good.
Those T-shirts are good till 2029 at least.
All right, you heard it here first, people. You heard it here first. Joey, do you want to get to any chats there before I ask one last question? We ask one last question?
Yes. Where are we? We've got a question here from Brian Turner. Will Labor, or I guess, do you have plans to revive Three Waters in the next election?
Not in the form that it was. That was a one-off opportunity, really. There's a reason it took 6 years to get to the point that it did, because it is a massive structural change. If it had been paused, then there was a chance. Keeping in mind the changes that we made to get it to the point where most councils were happy with, so the affordable water reforms, different to what Three Waters was, but it's all gone. It's completely gone, and I don't think that there's the time or, frankly, the appetite to do that. The only option we'll have is try and make something of this dog's breakfast that this government has set up. And so you can't say with any detail right now because it needs to play out to see how bad it's going to get, but it's not going to be good. We know that much, and it's going to cost ratepayers a lot of money, but it'll be on us to fix it because these guys won't.
No. And we've got a question here from Rachel D. What's Kieran's thoughts on the RSB?
Look, I've learned in politics, well, in life really, is that don't pretend you know something when you don't. And so what's RSB? If I had a mind blank here, what?
Regulatory Service Bill, the dull, dangerous cousin to the Waitangi, to the Treaty Principles Bill. We were talking about it last week.
I'm with you now. Sorry.
Yep.
So
right.
These bills are supposed to be non-controversial technical changes that are supposed to just be put forward from departments to improve bills. They don't warrant a bill on their own. But clumped together, it's quite a regular parliamentary process. If there's anything in there that goes beyond that is controversial, that is more than a technical change or something, that'll be a big deal. It'll be a massive deal, and it'll be the government trying to slip something under the radar because there's a lot of goodwill behind the scenes around agreeing to special procedures in the House for these sorts of bills because they are of that nature. So if there is something like that, then that would be a breach of good faith. But I'd need to have a look at exactly what it is that people were concerned about to be able to respond specifically.
We'll send you an interview we did last week with someone who's delving deep into it and give you a heads up on what they're thinking at least.
Okay, thank you.
And any other questions, Chewie, or shall I wrap with my last two?
Lots of comments, but no questions.
Okay. So this is a bit of the cheesy finish of the Christmassy thing, Kieran. But from a political point of view, looking to 2025, a couple of predictions from you. Things to look forward to and things to be aware of. Anything come to mind?
From a political observer and a political commentator point of view, the changeover from Peters to Seymour will give you guys a lot of stuff to talk about, I suspect, for the remainder of the term. So potentially that's something to look forward to. But from my perspective and from our perspective, I think that next year looks positive. I think that people are willing to push back on what the government is doing. We've seen examples of that already in localised areas. And so next year could really be a watershed moment in New Zealand politics, and that people said, actually, stop, we've had enough. And so that could well be something to watch out for.
Cool. Hey, dude, thanks so much. Sorry. Right, honourable dude. Thanks so much for... oh, no, there's one other. Because you said you've seen the Friday night show, eh?
Yeah.
I get the sense from that tone you know what I'm going to ask you about. That feels like it's...
Well, who knows? You might throw a curveball, but I have a suspicion.
We have a Friday night host. Name is Emily. And she's tried to get a hashtag going, and I can see it's popping up in our channel from other people. That's hashtag Hottie McAnulty. And I don't know what the male to female version of a bromance is. That's just like like I think you're cool. But maybe we should get you on a Friday night show one day. I think it'll make Emily's highlight. She is spoken for, by the way, so it's more kind of an admiration type thing. But how do you feel about the Hottie McAnulty title there, sir?
I'm a massive fan of Emily's as it happens. I watch the Friday night show from time to time, and I think they both do great. It's a great addition to what you guys do during the week. Yeah. But I was mortified, to be honest. And
can I stop? Just pause. Just be careful, because the more mortified you are, the more likely it is it turns into a t-shirt very, very shortly. Now continue, please, sir.
The truth of the matter is, I'm pretty confident that if they met me in real life, they may reevaluate. And it reminded me actually of a time on Instagram. It was a few years ago now. I got a random message from a New Zealand woman. It said, "You're cute. How tall are you?" And I replied, "Not very." And she said, "Okay, thanks." and that was it. So look, I don't cope very well in situations like this, but I'm sure equilibrium will reach itself very shortly.
Hey, thanks so much for coming and having a chat. Hopefully you get a bit of a break over some. Although with this whole kind of like submission process for the treaty principles bill closing on the 6th of January or something, it's like, how's it going to stop? But I'm trying to move away from that subject very quickly, Kieran. This is what I'm trying to help a little bit.
It's good that you're not drawing attention to it, Pat.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, that was smooth, man.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, hopefully you'll get a good break. And thanks for being a part of, communicating with us. And look, I'll say this publicly. I know that you kind of said to a few other Laborites that these guys are okay. We genuinely appreciate that, and thank you for sort of being our advocate within that realm as well. And it's been a year, and we look forward to another one.
The thing is, as you approach the end of the year, you naturally reflect on the year that's gone. And I think that one thing you guys can be really proud of is that over the space of the last 12 months, you have carved out a significant portion of the mediascape with this podcast, and it's only going to continue. And I think you'll get more and more people that are keen to come on and talk about stuff because of what you're building up. And I think just good on you. And you've worked bloody hard. I hope you have a great break.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get a chance to have a yarn again next year.
Yeah. And next year we'll make sure the Labor Party conference works and gets together. And that'll be choice.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. It's in
awesome.
Auckland next year, so that'll be cool.
Oh, I don't know. Can we go to Auckland, shall we? Maybe. I don't know about that. We'll see what happens.
Find a way.
All right, Kieran, we'll let you go. Thanks for giving us some time tonight. All the best, and have a good break, and we'll catch you in 2025.
Cheers, lads. Merry Christmas,
right,
everyone.
Cheers, mate.
Merry Christmas. All right. Oh, good timing. Just before Kieran leaves the waiting room, so he sees it at the end. I hope Emily saw that. That's for you, Emily, that last couple of questions. Let's get to some of these super chats. There's a lot of them, and thank you for them. We appreciate it. We didn't ask that. Kieran, are you still there? I'm going to bring you back on screen, Kieran. Don't go anywhere. Hi, Kieran. Welcome back.
G'day. I told me I couldn't leave until things downloaded, so I was just sort of sitting there. So.
Oh, cool. You're not on Blue Sky, eh?
Nah, I'm thinking about it though, because Christ, Twitter's toxic, man.
Yeah, it's awful. I do a little test now. In the weekend, I put like the same thing on both, and I read the comments from both. And I'm like, holy shit! You can see the difference.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
well,
extraordinary.
We got Chippy on, and then he got followed by the COO because we were interviewing her. So you should get on it. I'll put in a good word for the people upstairs.
Yeah, okay, dokes. Yeah, good.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye again.
By the way, Chippy Watch week 2.
Oh yeah,
he's at 11. He's 1,100.
Has he overtaken us? What are we? I don't even know.
He is slightly behind me. You still have the lead.
Well, not for long. Kieran will get on, and all those. He's still in the waiting room. All those people who think he's hot will follow him quickly. Thirst trap on Blue Sky. I nearly brought him back again. Still workshopping Steamboat Winnie. Yeah, I like that actually, Peter. I like Steamboat Winnie because I can already see, in those old cartoons, they had the full black eyes and the little triangles in them. That was how they drew eyes back then. I can see
thinking, it. Winston lying back on a rowboat, but the funnel is a cigar.
Not bad. Now, God, this is very, very generous of you. Thank you.
God, look at this fucking huge. Look at this huge super chat. I've got to peer up over top of.
I feel like made it 1,759 days before getting the COVIDs. This is my absence fee, likely for the week. Super paranoid about long COVID, so taking no chances on this one. Have a good new year all. Love Pat, Chewy, Whānau. It's been a great year finding you all, and it's been great having you on board Gold as well.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for everything you have contributed, and to that very, very generous super chat as well.
As far as the long COVID thing goes, it seems the big thing for avoiding that is take it real slow.
Yeah.
Like, don't rush to get back to your normal routine. Head to the gym, do lots of physical exertion once you think that you're over it, because you're probably not. Especially, it seems that there's a link between what was that thing? There was the link between that sickness that everyone gets in high school. What do they call it? Glandular fever.
Glandular
if
fever.
you get glandular fever, you're more susceptible to long COVID.
Yeah. So good luck. Thanks for being a part of us, and thank you for that very generous super chat. Thank you as well. It's in the ballot. National delivery tax cuts worth 3 Chupa Chops, but promised them to be worth 3 diamond rings from Michael Hill. Was that Michael Hill on the weekend? Because you might not know, Drew, but I'm getting married next year.
Speaking of Michael Hill and Dunedin, because it's all about Nationals tough on crime and that sort of thing. Did you know that the Michael Hill down here got robbed the other week?
Oh, no. In the mall?
Yep.
No.
Smash and grab.
When did that happen?
A couple of weeks back.
Oh, sheesh. No, didn't know. NZ Random, trickle down the back of your leg economics. Rachel, what's Kieran's thoughts on? We did that. Someone just forgot to unsign it. So there you go. That was answered for you as well. Kiwi Bird, remember, it's not about the frickin' targets. Yeah, I saw a headline from a news article, maybe on Spinoff, about the quotes of the year, and I think that one was the number one. Wooming, so many U-turns by this coalition, they must be getting dizzy by now. You've asked Brian's one, Mr. Arvid's, give him hell. Let's give him heel. Campaigning next year, Kieran, very good. Exeldia, national not understanding logistics. You need a tail 3 times the length in war. Health should be the same. At least 5 times would be better. So 5 back room for 1 front room. I don't like that saying about 3 times the tail in war, but it's a good analogy. It's good to remember as well. Mr. Arvid says Retty walks like a ghoul. Yeah, watching him just kind of pace away like a Tyrannosaurus Rex with those little arms going in. Peter says, have you tried switching it off and on again? Retty, that's for the IT people. What does Max say? Max says LGDDB would be a great BHN t-shirt. Local government debt done badly. In regards to today's announcement, full credit to Annie354654 and Nick Ruan for the idea and coining the term respectively.
Yeah,
credit
for people
credit's due.
That haven't seen Simeon's comments today, he basically said that local councils, if they're worried about their funding and that sort of thing, should focus less on social housing. And as we've discussed, in some towns, councils doing social housing might be the only social housing that they have going forward. That they should stop focusing on social housing and just concentrate on doing the pipes, because that's all the city council is good for, is doing the pipes.
Well, and ironically, they're mentioning the pipes, that they screwed up the Three Waters thing where the pipes would have been taken care of. So they're trying to offload that with that sentence, as you guys were saying, to the locals, so they can't get blamed for it when they all fall over and we get another Legionnaire's disease pop up somewhere. Gareth says, great interview. I'm here for the McAnulty verse. You wouldn't, says, looking forward to adding more notes to the BHN National Act New Zealand Coalition of Chaos Fail Trail. And Daniel, I finally sent Daniel's merch out today. Did I send it today? I think I sent it today. I sent it today, or I packed it today. No, I sent it today, and you probably got an email from Daniel, because Daniel had one of the orange chewies, because he is the gangster, and our supplier was short, so we had to wait a bit longer. I like to think Winnie, in reading the room and getting the real Ferrari ferries back, might give him leverage in the next election to survive an other term. Yeah, I mean, like, if someone pulled that off, that would be that's a nightmare. Should we just get into that now? Unless there's anything else you want to talk about? Because
it's all good.
To be honest, team, it's like, I laugh quite a lot when I'm doing this show, and I think it is a bit because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And I laugh because of the utter incompetence. And tonight, this is fucking hilarious. Not because it's good news, but just, it's like, I met someone in the weekend who was the embodiment of Mr. Bean. Like, looked like, walked like, honestly, Mr. Bean. And, you know the story with Mr. Bean. Everything fails. Except the difference with Mr. Bean is everything fails, then often there's a miraculous event at the end and it comes together. It's not coming together for these guys. They're just the narrative of the Mr. Bean without landing at the end. They're not landing the jump. And here's another example.
Oh my, haere, welcome to 3 News.
Another exclusive, remember? Another leak. The media over the next few days, we've exclusively seen, is going to be heard a lot. You just heard the one from TVNZ. Here's the one from 3.
A leaked report authored by the government's expert ministerial advisory group warns the Aratiri ferry should be retired next year. That's 4 years ahead of the government schedule.
Next year. Now, remember, I tweeted this today, but next year is based around this government saying 2029. Remember, they haven't found a ferry. They haven't identified a ferry. They haven't purchased a ferry. So how the hell they know they can have a ferry in 2029 is beyond me.
There's a world of difference between going, hey, look, if IREX had still been going, those were due to start coming on stream 2026.
Yeah.
It's a world of difference going, we're going to have to patch some capability for a year. Not fucking, 3-4 years?
Well, but 4 years based on them telling us it's going to be 2029 when they haven't purchased, they haven't found, they're still looking. So 2029 means nothing until they book it. What if every single place that makes ferries around the world is booked up until 2031? They don't know that yet because they haven't done it. So this 2029 date is arbitrary. Yes. It's like me saying I'm going to be living in a house I build by the end of next year. Oh yeah, Pat, have you got a section? Nope. No. Have you drawn up plans? Nope. No. Have you got a builder? Nope. But I'm going to be in that house that I'm going to build by the end of next year. It's literally exactly what they've just said. So that 2029, if you haven't heard it anywhere else, you heard it here first, is utter horse trap. I said trap instead of crap because I'm trying to be clean.
And as Kieran says, they knew that when they had that press conference last week.
Yep.
They knew it and they didn't say anything.
So let's have a listen to what the actual leak's about.
It says to accommodate the construction of a new wharf at Picton, it won't be possible for the Aratiri to continue to operate through to 2029.
So it's not going to be able to be used at the port. So I'm thinking some kind of diving board, maybe one of those inflatable slides like you get on but you will be able to get on it, it would seem, in Wellington, but not get off it in Picton.
will recreate the beach landing scene of Saving Private Ryan on every ship, on every journey. It'll be great.
The report obtained by 3 News also details the potential costs of replacement ferries. Senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch has the exclusive details.
Exclusive.
After her excursion onto the beach at Picton in June, the Aratiri has been running mostly without incident. And the government's been saying the ship would be in ship shape until 2029.
We need new ferries in place by 2029.
But tonight, 3 News can reveal that just 2 days...
Just point that. We need new ferries online by 2029, not we'll get or we have. Very important news. We need, right? We need. How are you going to get them? Have no information about that. We need doesn't mean we'll have.
We need new ferries in place by 2029.
But tonight, 3 News can reveal that just 2 days before the grounding, the government's expert ferry group had advised them the ship would need to be retired next year. Not because of its condition, but because there'll be nowhere to dock her. A leaked report authored by the government's expert ministerial advisory group warns operating Aratiri until 2029 is simply not possible, as the wharf and linkspan upgrades will need to be completed for the arrival of the new ships. With the Picton Wharf at the end of life in 2029, work needs to start in 2024 on agreeing requirements for construction of a new wharf, including retiring the Aratiri in 2025.
So basically, whānau, what they're saying is we either stop the Aratiri next year so we can build in preparation for the next one, or we'll keep the Aratiri going up until 2029 and then the new ferries will have nowhere to port. They're the options. Right now, that's what they're saying. And as Chewie said twice, they knew this before the press conference where they just spread lies to the nation. They knew this and they didn't choose to tell us, which is probably why someone's chosen to leak it.
Can all 3 of the ferries run to 2029?
As I understand it, what I've heard from Kiwi Rail is yes, that they go out to 2029.
Oh my God! We talk about if he stutters, he's lying. Was that not the worst of all times? That felt like it took 30 seconds to get through.
That's his tell.
Here we go.
Teddy in 2025. Can all 3 of the ferries run to 2029?
As I understand it, what I've heard from Kiwi Rail is yes, that they go out to 2029.
Oh my God, please, Mr. Luxon, can you come around and play some poker with us? Please, please, please. I'll bet you your Tesla. Come around and play some poker with me, please. Jill, you going to say something?
So let's recap here, right? Right from the get-go, Nicola Willis said that the IREX project was a massive failure of scope and that it just was emblematic of poor Labour project management.
Yep.
We said at that point that she was lumping in the costs of the improved port facilities that were needed, A, for the bigger ferries, B, for seismic response, and C, for climate change reasons. Those are all valid, and her ship canning the ferry project was not going to change the fact that new port facilities would need to be built. Picton's especially is over 100 years old. It's at the end of its useful life. Okay, they're solving that problem by splitting that out of the ferry project. But it's still coming back to haunt them because National does not think in long terms. It does not think in cohesive project terms. These were all things that Labour had an answer for. It was all part of the single IREX project. By splitting it out, they have not solved anything.
They're terrible. They're not good at this. And the thing is, they're not good at this, and they're not good. Then you know what? To be a liar is actually quite hard. Speaking from experience, to be a liar is really hard to pull it off. And there's a saying, and I'm going to butcher it, something like, you have to have everyone eventually gets caught out from being a liar because of their memory. You actually have to have the best memory in the world to be a liar, to remember what you've said. These guys don't lie well. They don't govern well. They don't politic well, and they don't lie well, and we can see it, especially Luxon when it comes to the splutter.
Nearly a year after Finance Minister Nicola Willis made the call to cancel the previous government's IREX ferry replacement project, the government last week announced it would establish a new company to procure 2 new ferries to be operational by 2029. In the leaked report,
which they've got no evidence they're going to be able to have them done by 2029 because they haven't bought one or found one or identified one. In fact, they've actually said if a better option comes up in the next 6 months, we might go with that one. Literally nothing.
From the group, ministers were advised that they should operate on the default position that, based on market soundings, 2 new ships can be procured and delivered by the end of 2027, at least a year before the 2029 operation date announced last week.
Did the government dilly-dallying all that time mean we could have missed out on a better ferry deal?
Yes.
However, that's exactly what the group said,
Yes.
that it was concerned the government ran the risk of missing out on some options due to delays caused by KiwiRail working to settle a claim with Hyundai. The suggested mitigation was to ensure a decision on whether to proceed with a closed tender by the end of July, so that a contract could be agreed by the end of October.
I understand a decision was due to be made at the end of July, so what took so long?
Well, again, we're working backwards from when the ferries need to be replaced, and if we make the decision on procurement, final decision in March, we've got plenty of time and a window to make that decision.
In the report, ministers were provided a commercially confidential list of indicative ship prices and potential delivery dates. The cheapest option was $282 million per ferry, with delivery dates of September 2027 for the first vessel and December 2027.
$282 million each.
Yes.
$550 million for 2 built from scratch, our conditions, fully rail-enabled ferries.
Yes.
Maths is a funny thing, isn't it?
Shall we get going?
For the second, while the most expensive option listed was $688 million per ship, with both to be delivered in the
per ship.
This is our money. They're fucking around.
1.3 billion. Remember the last guys, weren't the last ones for both of those massive, state-of-the-art world-class ones, the total was about 400, wasn't it? Just for the ferries. It was less than 560. No, they said 9, didn't they? No, it was about the same. It was about 560 for the IREX, and it was about 900 we were being told previously.
This is just mental.
Yeah, all right.
This is beyond incompetent.
Get to this.
Second half of 2028. 3 News revealed last week that Cabinet had agreed to set aside $900 million as a tagged contingency to buy new Cook Strait ferries.
Are you absolutely confident that Kiwis are getting a better deal than IREX?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Time will tell.
But why?
What?
Yeah, why? What's the reason?
What's your yardstick? Oh my God. I don't know what to say. This is like a year ago, we were talking about what a bad decision this was. 6 months ago, we were talking about what a bad decision it was. That they wouldn't be able to find the ferries because there's none for sale. So it would be new ferries, and that they'd be smaller and less capable for more money. We called it months and months and months ago, and these mugs still think that nobody's worked that out. They like Nicola said that she had discharged her duty on the ferries. The arrogance of these people. It's that combination of the arrogance and the utter incompetence and outright corruption in everything that they do is galling. Like you said, you've got to laugh about it, right? I put out something very similar on Blue Sky today of like, you got to laugh, right? Asterisks. You've got to laugh because it's either that or rioting.
Yeah.
Like this, like they're not listening to anyone. They're not listening to the taxpayer. They're not listening to anybody that actually has expertise in whatever area they're meddling with. In this case, the ferries. Like, I'm sorry, does Nicola have any sort of qualification in mass transit or shipbuilding?
Yeah, she's got an English degree. That's the same thing, isn't it?
The curriculum has changed a lot. That'd be fine if well, it wouldn't be fine, but it would be better if it wasn't paired with the arrogance.
It's almost that saying, it doesn't matter what you say as long as you say it loud enough. If you show confidence, if you say it loudly and walk out of the room, it's that kind of vibe. Do you know what we haven't brought up tonight? And I didn't ask Kieran about.
Angry.
Here's a little side note, little tangent before we go to the last story. What about Luxon talking about not going to Waitangi? Did you hear that today?
No.
Talking about not going to Waitangi. I don't think he's
Prime Minister's not going to Waitangi.
Talking about it.
Oh, look. Here's Christopher Luxon with his latest statement to Maori. It's just this. It's just this on a loop for 15 minutes.
Let me see if I can find it so we get it right. Yeah, it's not something he's absolutely said, like guaranteed he's not going to do.
Well, just in case something's coming up. Has he got a hairdresser appointment or something?
A singular here. No, he's getting a back sack and crack wax, isn't it? Is what it is?
He's smooth like a dolphin. He's getting his dome polished.
Here we go. Question mark hangs over PM's Waitangi attendance. The Prime Minister has not yet confirmed if he will attend the Waitangi Day ceremonies, instead mulling whether he'll visit the signing locations around the country. I wonder if he thinks one of those signing locations is Waikiki Beach. Maybe he's like, what, Hawaii,
Tapuki.
Maybe it's back to Tapuki. So yeah, there you go.
Wait, why? Okay, we've said this many, many times, and we'll continue to say it many, many more times. Luxon is a terrible politician, because why would you let anyone run with that headline?
Yeah.
Why would you give it to him? That's a gift. Why would you say that? Are you planning to go to Waitangi? Absolutely. Been looking forward to it. It's a really important thing for a Prime Minister to make sure that he attends Waitangi. Cool, done. That's a boring story. We're not going to run it. Oh, you don't think you're going to go? Absolutely, blood in the water. Publish. What an idiot.
Yeah, anyway, that was a little side note, but Peter's got a really interesting point. Remember, the National Party, the party of business, they want to run the country like a business. Who would invest in a company with Willis as CFO? It's a really, really good point, Peter. I probably will steal that off you and claim it as my own, but that's a really good point. Howie says, time for the GG to call time. This idiot government is simply reckless and irresponsible, absolute spuds. Wooming says, that look from Luxon was of a boy who was lying about having his hand in the cookie jar whilst his hand is still stuck in the jar. Bring back the Maori and Hinimoa ferries. Nikki, that's from Brian. A couple more there. Steve just goes, here's $2. Oh, thanks, man. And Wooming again, got home from my family holiday today to see my merch had arrived. Yoo-hoo! Will wear with pride. I think we should try and figure out. So our last live BHN show for this year is Thursday. Wonder if we can figure out a way to connect with people. Maybe we could do some Discord. People may not be aware of this. Planner Walk does it all the time when he comes on board. Is you can get on Discord and enable your camera. Maybe we could do that and give people a chance to get on Discord, enable their cameras, and show us their merch and stuff. Just a thought. I've got one more story, Chewy. Should we just keep going? I know you've got a little something down there I can see at the bottom. What do you want to do?
Oh, just there were a couple of comments of how people would offload the ferries, and we reckon we've worked it out. Here's a creative representation of leaving the ferry in Picton.
I was disappointed
for your South Island road trip
because I found something on Twitter. And I didn't bookmark it because I was going to use it one night and did it. And it was somewhere in Asia where the longboat just comes up beside the ferry and they touch each other and they keep going and the people just get off the longboat onto the ferry and then they pull apart. It's probably about right too. Has a prick got a spine? That sounds like a country western song, Brian. Thank you for the super chat. A new addition to the hashtag fail trail, dilly-dallied for too long on ships purchasing and ignored advice regarding aratiri end of life. Thank you for the super chat. Look, it's another story, and I think, Chewy, this is a little bit you're in my bag, but it's another, we're just going to continue to highlight these. Remember, we will judge this government by the standards they set for themselves. And as they are running away from stories and promises again and again and again, here's another one. National's quiet U-turn on the 250-ish million EV charger pledge. Once vowing to build 9,000 EV chargers, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon government has so far delivered less than half of the cash and chargers. So what that means is half of the cash and chargers needed this year to reach that target by 2030. It's a bit like the police all over again. You know, what was it? We needed like 30 a month. And for the past 3 months, there'd been 5 combined, like 5 people over 3 months. On the campaign trail, Luxon pledged that EV drivers would be able to plug in at, quote, 10,000 public ports across the country by 2030. His government would provide funding of, $250 million? Is that what it is? But this year, the government reduced pre-allocated funding while installations fell below suggested targets. The Labour government left behind a pot of $105 million for EV infrastructure. This year's budget reduced that, and they just whipped 10 million out of that, but 10 million. And while officials estimated that 670 chargers would need to be were needed this year to meet National's target, less than 300 chargers have been installed. Funding 521 charge points had been approved this year, said Transport Minister Simi. I like how it says have been approved. Does that mean actually implemented or just approved? Bit of difference. To maintain a reasonable ratio of chargers to electric cars, officials say 520 points should be installed next year and 720 in 2026, rising to more than 3,000 new plugs in 2030. The current public charging system is more sparse than networks in Australia. Australia, think about the waste of space between Australian cities, and we're more sparse than Australia, the UK and China. Before the election, Luxon laid the blame on his political opponents, saying under the Labour government, investment in public EV infrastructure has not kept pace with the rising number of EVs. So you know what they did, Chewy? They solved the problem by driving, literally, the number of EV purchases off the cliff. So now, rather than 17,000, whatever it was, it's 3,000 that we talked about last week. Now we can go, well, look at the ratio. It's much better because they're only selling, a quarter as many new EVs because of the rules that this government has implemented. New Zealand has the fewest public chargers per electric vehicle in the OECD. Luxon promised to unleash the transition to an electric transport system by investing in EV infrastructure and cutting red tape to deliver more chargers in more places, more quickly and more cheaply. What you call that, Chewy, is more bullshit. Sean Dick, of electric vehicle advocacy group Better New Zealand, thought the government was never serious about delivering its campaign promise, as you said, Chewy. They're using what Labour had promised anyway. They're not providing anything, and they're cutting it right back, he said. Minister Brown said the government retains its goal. This is the gaslighting we were talking about earlier. Remember, we're going to hit our police numbers. They say after they're told over 3 months, 5 new officers rather than about 100 that they needed, right? We're still going to hit it. They told you about smoking, world effective smoking bans in New Zealand that was going to drive our numbers down. They cancelled them, and they're standing there saying, we will hit the same targets. And now Simeon Brown is saying we will retain the goal of 10,000 charges by 2030, but he would not answer about the 257 million in promised funding. So it's just gaslighting. He's standing there saying, we're still going to do it. And you go, can you show us how? And he goes, no, but we're still going to do it. It's the dictionary definition of gaslighting. Last little sentence, Joey, because this is one thing that's kind of terrifying, but you get in bed with the devil. in coalition talks, ACT secured an agreement that any funding for EV chargers be subject to robust cost-benefit analysis. The tool to maximise private investment has not yet been finalised, Minister Brown confirmed to Stuff. So of course they do, ACT got their little hairy fingers in there, and they're now able to do a robust cost-benefit analysis. And maybe, Chewy, to be honest, the declining sales of EVs, maybe that robust cost-benefit analysis can be made to look like it's okay. But what they promised us was an additional 9,000 chargers, and they're not going to deliver it.
I call it.
Do you know what an EV is? It's an electric vehicle. They're vehicles that it's like you go to the front of it and you wind it up like you do those radios, and then you can drive for a while. That's an EV.
My EV takes 1,456 D-sized batteries. It takes a long time to buy those all individually at the supermarket.
Energizer, bro.
Look, I called this. You can go back, check the tape if you like. I called it when they announced it. The numbers, the money didn't add up. Because what those charges are, they make it sound like, you've got to conquer range anxiety. You've got to make sure that people can charge in every little town that they're going through on a big road trip, all of that sort of stuff. The money did not make sense with how many charges Luxon was talking about, because those bigger transit charges are expensive. The only way that those numbers made sense is if they were destination charges, the ones you find in malls and supermarkets, the slow ones.
Right.
That was the only way it ever worked. And so his announcement, for anybody that knew anything about this, was so fucking transparently wrong that I think we said that on the day that the math didn't add up. And that might as well be their slogan. Like national, the math just doesn't matter.
So
we're
28,
do it anyway.
28,500 per charger. That's 257 million divided by 9,000, 28,555. Is that like that's an inexpensive public charger?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like that one at Timaru that we both use, that's like the full 200 kilowatts. Is that like $100,000 charger sort of thing?
Yeah, well, you think about it, you could have had the big transformer behind it and all of that sort of thing. So, like whenever you see these new chargers going in, I know ChargeNet is going on a binge. What is offsetting the price for them to do that is some government chip-in funding.
Right.
Yes, ChargeNet is a business. Z is a business. All of these places there's a business case for chargers.
Yeah.
But this is a problem, is that Luxon quite rightly identified that we had a very low amount of charges per electric vehicle. He identified the problem correctly and then lied to us. And it hasn't got better. Like, that's worth just 6% of the national fleet of EVs. He identified other countries. I'm glad that he mentioned the UK. I saw a stat. Do you know? Okay, so we're at 6% of the national fleet is electrified. Okay. What do you think the UK's is as a percentage?
Well, it must be more because I know by 2030 they're only going to be selling EVs. So what, I don't know, 20?
36%.
Wow,
of the British national fleet.
Are you saying EVs? That's what's on the road, or they're of new sales?
No, that's what's on the road.
Wow. So basically, if you're at the lights with 10 cars, 3 of them are EVs.
Yep.
Wow.
And this is the thing: is like there's no forward thinking. Like, this is the way. Like, it's not we don't know if electric is going to be the future.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
because
hang on.
Like,
it's
people
actually
keep on talking about hydrogen. How many hydrogen cars have you found?
But it's actually
hydrogen filling stations. No,
it's not the future. It's actually the present.
It's fucking now. Yes.
Yeah, it's the present. I mean, now that we've got the range and the price to be, it always worked, but to be even more comfortable for people, it's actually the present. It's not the future. It's now. It's today.
JC and the Pigeon Cats raises an interesting point. Yeah, 90% plus. I think that's new sales at this point, because they have, Norway makes a lot of money out of oil and gas and that sort of thing, but they have poured all of their substantial royalties into electrifying their country. That's something we couldn't do here either. Like, we won't stand up to these exploration companies and demand a huge royalty, which they will clearly pay in other parts of the country because we're too soft. Please come and exploit us. But yeah, China is fully gone in on electrification. They're turning their deserts into solar farms. They have all of their major auto manufacturers are battery. They're all battery, and they're all revolutionizing how batteries work and their energy density, to the point where Tesla is getting their batteries from BYD. It's fucking crazy. But again, this government that we have do not have the ability to think in those terms. They can't think that far down the track. They can't get us ready for the future that is here.
There you go.
And for everybody, because I've seen this in the comments of various stories about this, right, is that our grid can't handle it. Somehow our grid can handle a massive Microsoft data center that would consume more energy basically on a daily basis than doubling or tripling our EV fleet.
So this is basically new car sales. Norway 90%, Iceland 64%, Sweden 60%, Finland 50%. Do you think those Scandinavian countries that always get to the top of all the lists for good living have got something sorted out here? Denmark 46, Finland 54, Netherlands 44, Belgium 41, China 37, but obviously it also means they have the most sales. Look at that. 7.8 million in stock, 3.3 million in sales. The next closest was the United States. So China's 3 times the size, but it's 6 times the size in sales. So even proportionally, it's still kicking ass. Where are we? We'll keep going down. Can we see us anywhere?
Oh, no, we're further up because it hasn't got 2024.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, look at that.
So we look all right there.
Thanks, Labour.
2024.
Yeah, thanks, Labour. And isn't that interesting?
2024.
Because you might see, and I'm just spitballing, that they're all kind of going to be going up, 58. Yep, they're all sort of trending up. And then we're going to go trending up. No. I wonder if that'll also be the change people want around the world. EVs will start trending down based on change of governments. Hey, let's get some of these super chats, because there are some very generous people. It's amazing, you guys, what you guys have done within the super chats. Thank you. Kiwi says, Fail Trail is a new channel in Discord, Pat. I know. Just in case you were confused. Study Boy NZ, scrap Air Force plane for PM, use the old ferries. Yeah, this is the thing. When of course, Nikki No Boats came out with that second-hand Corolla, I was still surprised to see her driving around or being driven around in a 7 Series BMW. You know, if a second-hand Corolla is good enough for us, then surely she should get rid of the quote-unquote Ferrari. It might as well be a 7 Series BMW as the same sort of price as a Ferrari, shouldn't she? Wouldn't that be appropriate, perhaps? Thanks, Kiwi Skirt. Yes, Pat. Fail Trail is a documented list on our Discord of every fail this government has made. Check it out, BHN Whānau. Yeah, I was actually thinking today about doing a bit of a list of broken promises as well, so I'll go and have a look there.
No, they've done the work for you, Pat.
Yeah.
They have done the work.
All right, we just pause on that for a second, because there's a couple of we do generally appreciate everybody's super chats. It's lovely, but some people have been extra generous. Thank you, the Pom, $50. It's amazing. Hey guys, love your work. Might not see you for the rest of the week. Have a great break, and thanks for bringing Ems and Mags on board. They crack me up every time. I like that you've used the Gaelic version of crack. Just so you know as well, I don't know whether I'm in trouble or whether this is genuine, but Emily messaged me after that conversation with Kieran, just said, thanks, Pat. But there's no like winky face or smiley face or kind of grrr. It's just thanks, Pat. So I don't know. I might be in trouble. I might not be. But whatever the way, Emily, you're welcome. And Chad, this is only the second one of these we've ever had. So thank you very much. Even more generous. Just $100. Grow your audience from Chad. Incredibly generous. Thank you, guys. You're also, look, I mean, not to get too, Thursday nights we will get gushy. But you're all very generous. You guys probably don't even understand. Like right now, there's over 1,000 people watching us live. I watch these sorts of channels in America who have 60,000, 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, and some of them don't get 1,000 live viewers, or they might get a couple of thousand, even though they're 15 times the size of us. So you're not just generous with your super chats or your Patreons. We really appreciate those, and we actually need them to help us operate. But just with your time, even me and Chewy are constantly, when we get off at the end of the show, going, they said, see you tomorrow night. Man, they're always here. So we're genuinely thankful that you guys are here. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The reason Duncan Garner's podcast is a pile of shit is he hasn't built community. He had that, and that's it. There's actually no offense. I don't mean any offense to you, Duncan Garner, when you see this and someone clips it, but he hasn't built community and he doesn't know how. The mainstream media don't know how. They follow a mainstream model where we speak, you listen, never the twain shall cross. They don't know how, right? And that's why this kind of thing works. And it's all about you guys. It's all about the community around us. And gosh darn it, Chewy, we love you. There you go, finished. More mushy stuff on Thursday night. Can't hear you. You've come back in with no mic. Well done, son. Don't know what you've done, but there's no mic there. While Chewy's sorting that out, I can lip read, but I don't know I can't hear you unless I've done something. Jacko here says, got my no boats stickers today. Hilarious stuff. I just had a thought. Imagine if I couldn't hear me. No, giving away the secrets, Pat. Yeah, no, but this is, look, I also believe in, they can't hear me because you're responding to what I just said. I also believe in that there's enough for everybody, and that, rising tide lifts all boats. That's why we're getting a whole bunch of us on board on Friday night. Bigger content makers, smaller content makers, publicizing anyone. Okay, Chewy's just writing a note and doing it himself. That's why we're getting together people from the left. I mean, that's where we are. You guys know this. This is what we do, and we're getting people together. If we can help like we sent you guys to Mountain Tui. Like if we can help other people, and if other people can help us, if we can all help each other, it's like even Dunks, right? Even Duncan, even though he said he would vote for Donald Trump. Believe it or not, there's room for everybody. There's an audience for everybody. So thank you, Jacko, for your thing. He took it down. Got my no boat stickers today. Hilarious stuff. And then Exeldis says, ordered my Nikki no boat stickers. There you go. At both ends of the spectrum. What really gives me the shits, this is why I love this man. Say it again.
Test 1 2.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yay.
And finally, so we needed new wharfs regardless of the size of any replacement ferries. Yes. And that was said not by Aisha Verrill. I'm not going to remember who, in Parliament to Nikki No Boats when they were talking about it. Yes, it's always been the case. New wharfs have always been the case. This is why this is a pile of dog shit on what they're trying to do. Anyway, Chewy, you worked hard to get back to see us, so I'm going to sit back and let you go with whatever reason you've come back for.
I'm going to leave. Well, we're leaving soon, aren't we? I was just looking at the Discord fail trail list. It is expensive, Pat.
Good.
It is
well done, people.
Fucking good list. You could scroll for literally 3 minutes to get to the bottom of it. But what I came back for is
just credit.
Story.
Credit to who said that. Just quickly.
Barbara
Edmonds.
Cool.
Thanks, team.
I wanted to come very briefly to talk about this story that was also.
Yeah. I did see this headline.
Yeah. So Te Pāti Māori call for extra security following a staged attack on Debbie Ngauranga Paka. Basically, she was confronted by an older Pākehā man in a petrol station in Whangarei, to the point where police were called and service station staff had to intervene. Middle-aged Pākehā man verbally intimidated and threatened Ngauranga Paka while they were waiting for a coffee at a petrol station. So obviously major threat there. Ngauranga Paka says that petrol station staff intervened, providing protection from a raging racist. These incidents are on the rise, but so is the araha for each other. She said in a statement, due to concern that these incidents were becoming increasingly common, Te Pāti Māori would be writing to the Speaker asking for better security and support for MPs. Now, this isn't just this one incident. This isn't even this one particular incident. Remember, there have been multiple studies since COVID that said that MPs are more often confronted by angrier people. So I do want to say that this request seems to be to the benefit of all MPs. But more to the point, with this particular episode, this is a symptom of a year's worth, more than a year's worth, of poisonous rhetoric entering our national discussion. Seymour and his party have called Te Pāti Māori separatists. They've called them Māori radicals. They have used that language of incitement. And this time, it's a person yelling shit in a petrol station. What is it next time? What's the next escalation? Is the next time going to be an unhinged boomer with a gun because he thinks that Māori are coming for everything?
No.
Like this is what has happened when these people talk with this sort of rhetoric.
Yeah.
David Seymour, this is at your feet. I bet if we get a name, this guy voted for ACT.
Well,
I
but
wouldn't find that
just remember,
hard to believe at all.
No, but just remember, David Seymour, yes, but Christopher Luxon, you open the door.
Yeah.
You open the
You gotta own
door.
it.
If it breaks, you own it. If you hadn't have gotten to bed with the devil at any means necessary, by any means necessary, again, less likely, you own it as well.
And this, I think, brings back to something we've been saying again all year. Stand with Māori. Because this is something that's happened to Debbie, but every Māori will see this as this is how emboldened these racists are to confront people over this.
Yep.
Maybe you're wearing a Te Pāti Māori t-shirt. Maybe you've got something with a Tēnā Rangatira flag on it. That could be enough to set someone off. So we stand with Māori. We always have on the show. Because you need to be visible. You need to show that you support people. Because they might want to have a go at a Māori on their own. It's an easy target. But when it's one of their own wearing one of those flags or one of those t-shirts, well, that's a more difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And look, I mean, I don't want to be seen to be a capitalist just making sense of that now, but if you do want to be a part of the BHN team to actively do that, there's a way you can, right? I know people might think it's a little bit tactless to try and be, force it down your throat. There's a way that you can.
Well,
if you're just new to us and you don't know what we're about, the reason that we do this brand and we do it for lots of different groups is thanks to Margaret Mutu, and this is why.
There's a lot of talk with people that watch our show and that sort of thing about what the best, what in your opinion, what's the most effective way the Pākehā can support Māori in this fight so that they don't feel like they're doing it all by themselves?
Good question.
Oh, thank you very much for that question.
Great question.
Because it's one of the things, my Ngāti Kahu, so I'm the chair of Ngāti Kahu way up in the far north, and I've asked them what instructions that I could take to Tūranga Waiwai, and one of them was that we ask our Tauiwi allies, which includes our Pākehā allies, if they could please come and help us by being a buffer between us and the Crown, and challenge the government, challenge the Crown, because if you can see what's happening to us, for heaven's sake, instead of us having to say it, because they don't listen to us, instead of us having to say it, would you please say it?
Now, if you are non-Māori, you may get criticised, as we have been, for having a white saviour complex. What I would say to you is, as non-Māori, we've sort of been given a job to do by Professor Margaret Mutu. And there are people online who come at us, often come at me, often talking about white saviour, and I say to them, if I have to pick between your toxic venom on Twitter or Professor Margaret Mutu, I'll stick with her. Now, just to reiterate, I guess what Chewy was hinting at as well, don't buy this stuff, right? I'm not doing it as a hard sell, but I'm saying there's ways you can show your support, whether you are Maori or non-Maori. There are lots of t-shirts out there covered in the Tino Rangatiratanga flag. There are lots of Maori-inspired gear. Just be a billboard. If you're not, don't do this, fine. Don't do this. Be a billboard. Show your support. Actively be a part of the support. You know, do it, and just and then be a buffer. And stand alongside. You don't have to fight the fight for necessarily, but if you're asked to help, help. Professor Margaret Mutu has said to us, if they don't listen to us, maybe they'll listen to you. Right? There's no savior complex in it. That's like we've got this, but if we stumble, maybe you can catch us and help us get back up and keep going. That's how I see it, at least. And I'm very excited about wearing some buffer gear when I'm up at Waitangi. On Waitangi Day, I'll be decked out in mine. And yeah, this genuinely isn't like a hard push. I'm just saying there's a way of doing it. There's also lots of other ways, Chewy.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, we've had more super chats. I think we need to stop the super chats, guys.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, because it's getting a bit ridiculous. But thank you again. Kooky, late fee, sorry, been traveling. That's okay this one time. Just once, though. Not a bottom line, by the way, says Mr. Arvids. I'm not sure what that's about, but there you go. Chad sends a super sticker. And Perfectly Normal says, here's $3.49. And again, Chad, thank you very much. It's very generous. Enough is enough tonight. That's a second $100 from Chad tonight. Really generous. Really.
Chad really living up to the name there.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it. You've done your part. No more. Enough.
You're cut off. You're cut off.
Enough. Thank you. All right, guys. I think we're done for tonight. I want to say a big thanks to Richard Evans. I told you we'd give you a shout out if you bought some merch during the show. Richard Evans is going to get himself some stickers and stuff that we send along to him. Anything else to wrap up the show, Chewy?
Look, this is going to be a huge week, and I'm going to make a prediction now that with 2 leaks on the board already, we will see more leaks this week. This is going to be a full course dinner of the government showing its ass, and we have great guests to talk about the ass that is presented. We might not use.
Hey, listen, Chloe's not going to want to talk about their ass. I'm just saying.
To be confirmed.
Just saying.
But yeah, stick with us all this week. We got some great stuff. It's going to be fun. Horrifying and fun.
Mr. Arvids confirms it's about the treaty's principal bill was not a bottom line. Gotcha. Yeah, you are correct.
Bottom.
And then legalize cannabis. I'd do it tomorrow. Are we going to go with that? Thank you for the sticker. Yes. Thank you for the $3. All right. I think we need to go before frickin' Chad tries to give us another $100. Holy crap. We better get out of here. Tomorrow night, Chloe Swarbrick will be with us live from 9 o'clock. I won't put out there exactly who we've got lined. We haven't got anyone lined up for Wednesday night yet, but I've got a few irons in the fire. We'll see what happens. And then on Thursday night, remember, all 4 of us are going to be here just having a hangout for the night. If there is these breaking news stories, I'm sure we'll still cover it, but we'll be hanging out. And we'll definitely open up Discord on Thursday night as well. And then Friday night, we are starting a brand new podcast called The Leftist Collective. A huge thanks to everyone who's said that to come on, and Spider, who's actually done our graphics for us with some music. That you don't know this yet. One of our entrants for the theme song. Remember the one that was a bit like had that Green Day vibe about it. Mm-hmm. That's the theme music we're going to use for the Leftist Collective. So we've worked out a little deal, and patrons, thank you. You guys have helped pay some money towards that theme that we can own it, and that's going to be part of our new theme on Friday night for the Leftist Collective, when a bunch of us get together and talk about the year. And then look forward to that podcast coming up next year, probably on a monthly rotation. Are we good, sir? Is there anything else we need to get out before we say goodnight to the lovely people?
No, it's not nice time. It's time
for
TV
time?
Kiwi.
All right.
TV Kiwi, insert memory here.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures
right, guys, already set up tomorrow night. Chloe Swarbrick from 9. And then we'll also feature the 7 other leaks that come out tomorrow as well. Various networks, the ZB leak, the RNZ leak, the One News leak, the 3 News leak, the Big Hairy News leak, the Working Group leak. All of those leaks will be talked about tomorrow night, Joey.
I don't even think he's exaggerating.
All right, team. Be safe. Thanks for tonight. Great show. Thanks, Kieran, for coming on board. And we'll catch you all tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.